Hey everybody, it's Active Fun Guy here. We're back with another paint tutorial. For this, we have an apothecary biologis, one of the new models from the 10th edition that started back in 2023. Now, as you may notice, I may start painting some black. Well, I thought about painting this, but then at the last minute I was like, okay, let's do the tutorial for it. So, this is just my way of painting the apothecary. But let's see. Let's get started. So, otherwise, the apothecary is an all-white armored space marine with subtle details with black, different colors and stuff like that. But the biologist is actually a really cool miniature. So we'll get back to the black in just a minute. But for all of the things considered, the black is actually done. So we're going to start off with other details. For this, we're going to paint some of the red on the miniature, which include the pouch that holds his tools, some red on the armor, and stuff like that. So for this, I'm going to get a contrast paint. Let me make sure I find the right one so I can just be sure where it is. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Sorry about that. So, we're going to use Flesh Tear's Red. So, this is white armor, of course, so you do have to be extremely, extremely careful. So, for the white parts, I'm actually going to take some Flesh Tear's Red, switch from this brush, and I'm going to use my very fine brush right here. So, what we're going to do is that this is itty bitty, so what we're going to do is take a little bit of Flesh Tear's Red, just not too much. We're going to go on the red parts of the miniature, which are the eye lens, which is right here. Let me make sure it's not too much on there. If you make any mistakes, you can just tidy up with Corax White. But I just want to be careful. Be extremely careful. You can also do this for some of the lights, but I'm also just keeping this for the red parts of the armor, which is also the symbol on his helmet and other parts. May know. Oh yeah, and besides, with the red now done, it's time to start moving on to the other details. So another thing that's really difficult about this character is, of course, it has white armor, and white can be extremely hard to paint. But in order to shade the miniature without overclogging with a wash, we're going to do a recess shade. For this, we're going to use a contrast paint for the actual character itself, apothecary white. So we're going to take some apothecary white and put it on the table. Let me get my well palette real quick, just so I can have some contrast paint. What we're going to do is that apothecary white is more like a off-white, or an off-gray. So what we're going to do is that take very little on the brush, and then if you look in the recesses of all the apothecary, what we're going to do is this. We're going to go just put some shade in the recesses, and that's it. Actually, let me just yeah. You can use this kind of size brush, but I like to show you. You can also use a small brush like this, or a small layer brush if you're using the Citadel products. But also, just take a little bit of shade or contrast paint, make sure not too much, and basically paint it right into the recesses of the white armor. See, as you can see, it's nicely shading the armor, but it's not over darkening it. See? That way it has a nice little shade of white in the recesses. So that way it's not all just solid white. And if you do get over this contrast, you can just tidy this up with some Corax White. Just take your time. Now, I'm going to start with the shoulder pad from what chapter he's in. So, I was looking at the other chapters. You can just do a custom, but we're going to do it how he is on the box art. He comes from the Ultramarines chapter. So for this, we're going to paint the inside of his left shoulder pad with Macragge Blue. So what we're going to do, take some Macragge Blue. Make sure this pot is still good. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Okay, we're going to take some Macragge Blue. And basically what we're going to do is that, get some paint onto the brush. So what we're going to do is take a little bit of water, not much, just a little bit to thin it down, because this is a base paint. All we're going to do is going to start base coating this part. So be extremely careful. What you're going to do is just want to base coat the entire inside of the shoulder pad like so with Macragge Blue. If you wish, you can also, I just use this bigger brush to start off with, and then I can use a smaller brush for the rims. I'll show you in just a second. So what we're going to do, paint the inside of this with this. It may take two to thin coats, but don't worry, just take your time. There we go, that's the ultramarine shoulder pad painted. Alright, before we move on to the other stuff, well, of course, we do have some other stuff, but we're going to paint the various lights on the miniature. So, for this, there's also a green screen right there, or, on his lights. So we're going to do another contrast paint. We're going to use Striking Scorpion's Green. Now, you may be wondering, why such a bright green? Well, actually, I'm not going to use it on the screen. I'm actually going to do this on one light, so that way I can keep the screen for something else. So for the green, basically what we're going to do is we're going to add it to a little lens that's on his, right here on his helmet, like right here. Try not to get this on the white. Just a little bit. And then one right here. You can of course have blue lights instead. I'm just doing this with my biologis just to give him a little unique feel to it. And also for the green, you can also use it on these panels when they're done, but I prefer the old-fashioned blue. But for right now, that's actually all the green done. And for the screen on his arm, we're going to use a different green. We're going to use Mantis Warrior's Green. Now, again, I like using Striking Scorpion's Green, but I want to differentiate the different green lights so it doesn't look like it's the same. So, take some Mantis Warrior's Green, just a little bit on the brush. We don't really need to paint the buttons because they're actually the same color as armor. So what we're going to do, take some Mantis Warrior's Green. We're not going to need much. Just a little bit on this little screen right here. Alright, and that's the screen painted. Alright, so normally for the cables that he has for the sample container right here, it's usually green and yellow cables. We're just going to paint them one color just for interest. So for this we're going to use Luxian and purple. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because, again, I just want to have my own somewhat unique look to my biologis. And I just want to, just make mine a little bit different. So, take some Luxian purple. We're not going to need much. What we're going to do is this. We're going to put it all over the cables, which are right here, and that's the only detail we want the purple on. And don't forget about the other side as well. And as for these white cables, I'll look up the paint scheme just to, be sure. But I'm pretty sure most of these cables are mostly white like his armor, but I'll have to check. But for right now, I'm just going to paint this cable right here. And now that the purple is now dry, we're going to start off with the yellow details. So for the yellow, basically, it would be like for the cables, as I said. But I just wanted to keep the yellow for one color, that way it's not, like the same thing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to switch out brushes. We're going to go with a detail brush. So what we're going to do, take some Imperial Fist, which is a contrast paint. What we're going to do is going to basically put on a spotlight right here. And if you want, you can paint the spotlight grill silver, but don't worry, it's pretty much just white, like I said, with all the other parts of his armor. Just be very careful. Alright, that's the light. Oh wait, missed a spot. There we go. Now that's the light done. And for the little screens on his sample container, basically we're going to do a little bit of a blue. So you could use Pilar Glacier like I've done before, but then again, that's too, pale. So we're going to use Frost Heart. Check out the paint like so. And for this, we will need a kind of medium-sized brush because we don't need a really big one. And we are going to paint around it with silver. I just want to get the contrast done right now, so it's because it's kind of easier to paint around it. So what we're going to do, take some Frost Heart, and basically make sure there's not too much on your brush. If you want, depends on how much you want, but watch this. We just put this on, and it looks like the screen is actually holding something inside. And just repeat this all throughout the container. There's some hard to reach areas, but just take your time and you'll get the results you're looking for. All right, now we're going to focus on the lesser of the metallics that we see on this miniature. The lesser of the metallics being green gold. So we're going to use greedy gold. I would use Retributor armor, but unfortunately I do not have any Retributor armor in the store I go to purchase my products from, or miniatures. They ran out of Retributor armor, so this is what I'm going to work with for right now. It just takes a little bit more coats because it's a different paint, but it's fine. Okay, so I put it back here. I put it down here on the camera just so it doesn't make much of a mess. So one thing you will need to do is that you will need to get a smidge of water, just a smidge, just to help thin down the water, thin down the paint. And what we're going to do is going to start painting in all the gold. So that's the chest eagle and the little eagle symbol on his shoulder pad. And see how translucent this paint is compared to Retributor armor. This will take 2 to 3 coats, but don't worry. Just take your time and you'll get the results that you're looking for. And try not to hit the white armor. Gold now done, we are not going to shade the gold. For this, we're going to use Seraphim Sepia. So, now, usually I use flesh tone washes like Reichland Flesh Shade or Gilliman Flesh, but I want to use Seraphim Sepia because sepia is kind of a yellowish in a way, and gold is kind of like a metallic yellow, so we're going to do this. Here's some wash, and we're going to not put the wash too much. What we're going to do is going to, as you can see, it has a nice little shading, but it has a nice little warmth to the gold. See, like so. Do this all over the gold. Alright, with the gold now shaded, and while we have the Seraphim Sepia out, what we're going to do is that we're going to shade in the Purity Seal. The Purity Seal is basically, you know, that little parchment that are on Space Marines. So we're going to take some more Seraphim Sepia. You may need two coats just to coat the, you know, parchment in the bone color. But just be very careful and try not to get this on the white armor. Alright, that's the parchment done. And for the actual parchment wax, we're going to paint it using Galvorback Red. Now, Galvorback Red isn't really a red. It's basically kind of like a maroon color. And it kind of has the same color as red wine. And no, I do not drink. It's just a similar. So just be very careful and just paint this on the parchment. Or the wax, I'm sorry. Just on the wax. Try not to get any on the white armor, but if you do, you can just tidy it up later. Alright, that's the wax done. And another subtle detail are these little extra vials back here. You can paint them different colors, but I'm going to paint in the same color. So for this, we're going to need another contrast paint. Let me make sure I find the right one. Actually, you know what? We'll do it with 2 different colors. Let me just make sure I get the right colors real quick. Ah, here it is. For one of the colors, we will be using... Yeah, we'll use Achillean Green. Sorry about that. It's just hard to find the station when there's so much stuff on it. So, take some Achillean Green. What we're going to do, we're going to paint this on the back vial right here. And you could, of course, paint the same color. I just want to do this separately so that way it has a little more interest. And for the Achillean Green, you can also paint this on a little screen back here. Alright, that's the Achillean Green done. And for the front vial, we're going to use Doomfire Magenta. So we're going to check with the paint like so. So we're going to take the same brush, just a little bit Doomfire Magenta. All right, that's the extra vials done. All right, and the last metallic on the miniature is also the most visible. It's the silver. For this, we're going to use Lead Belcher. So what we're going to do, check out the pot like so. Now, you do have to be careful for some parts of the silver. For example, if I put some silver on the palette, what we're going to do is that if you look on the tools right here in his tool belt or his pouch, we're going to just paint the tools with just the silver. That's it. Just be very careful not to hit any of the details with the silver. And also for more parts of the silver, it would be his servo arms, the barrel of his pistol, and of course the little sample carrier that he has, and also the cables that are back here. Now, with the silver now done, we're not going to shade the silver. We're going to use Nuln Oil. Okay, all we're going to do is going to take some Nuln Oil, and we're going to apply it all over the silver. So that would be his servo arms, or like his tools. You don't have to do his tools if you don't want, but we're going to do his servo arms. Let me get some on the brush real quick. And just continue shading all the silver all over the model. Alright, and the model is done. I've also painted some silver details that I missed, like the handle right here on the thing. So, of course, there may be some mistakes here and there, but don't worry. I might post a picture in my community posts when I actually fix it. But either way, this is today's tutorial on how to paint the apothecary biologis, or biologis, however you say it, for the ultramarines. However, you can follow this exact tutorial if you wish, or you can look at some other tutorials on this. And also for the shoulder pad from the chapter, paint one is which chapter you wish. I just did blue for the ultramarines because that's the one I knew, but that's all. So, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial with the painting your apothecaries, and I really hope you enjoyed watching the video. Happy painting. Bye-bye.